Hello, everyone. We are live. This is Ring the Bell. This is podcast number 6. And in fact, this week we're calling the podcast Too Much Boxing number 2 because, again, this week there are so many fights. You have to be a proper diehard to keep up with every card that's actually on at the moment. I'm here with Nathan, my co host. How are you, Nathan, man?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I've had a great weekend. I've just upgraded my computer. It's my birthday coming up, so I bought myself a couple nice little things. But I had a great weekend watching a good weekend's boxing, man. We'll start well because we got quite a lot of things to get through. We'll start with a fight that was probably not so important this weekend, but it was a good little scrap. Yildirim, he actually won against Derek Edwards, who's I believe is the guy that knocked out Badu Jack early in his career. So
That's good.
yeah, it's not a bad little comeback win that for Yildirim. It wasn't great, but you could see he'd improved on things since the Eubank Junior fight. So fair play to him. He gets a good comeback win against a decent enough name. Be interesting to see where Yildirim goes though, because if you throw him back in at world level, I mean Eubank Junior isn't even really world level, arguably, and therefore, I worry about Yildirim if he takes too many more steps
It,
up.
it's European level. It's quite obvious, isn't it? I mean, we
A hundred
discussed that
percent.
ages ago.
Yeah, I agree. I agree very much so. But it was good to see him get a win nonetheless. It was a good win, good enough win. Josh Taylor blasts out Winston Campos. Did you see this fight?
I did, yeah. I thought it was a good performance.
Yeah,
I was a bit disappointed with Campos, to be honest.
I was somewhat, but you have to think about this. Winston Campos is an experienced campaigner. Sure, he's not the best fighter at the weight class, but he's had good he's had good fights. He's had some tough losses against good level guys. But Josh Taylor's just another level. I mean, you
Oh, definitely.
I wouldn't be scared about putting him in there against any of the current sort of prospects to European level guys because he's gonna he's gonna smash him up. He really needs some world level sort of gatekeepers or journeymen, but it's going to be hard to matchmake Josh Taylor
You
from this
can't
point.
match someone like him because no one wants to fight him.
No, I
I don't blame
agree.
him.
It's a problem. It is a problem. It does show you that, regardless of O'Hara Davis' skills and what happened in the fight, he did have balls for taking the fight. Josh Taylor's a well-known beast in the sport, and he's having trouble finding world-level guys that want to fight him, let
To
alone
be honest,
European.
if they got him a world title shot in his next fight, they ought to go for it, grab it with both hands. If it's,
There's there's talks that I was reading this
it's,
earlier that Josh Taylor was saying he's willing to step up if Broner's opponent pulls out. Now that would
yeah,
be an interesting fight. I think Josh Taylor would win pretty comfortably
so
though,
do
but
I,
it would
have
be
to
a
be honest.
good name for Josh Taylor to have on his record on the way up. So it's certainly interesting. There's a lot of good possibilities for Josh Taylor, but I feel like he's going to get thrown in at the deep end soon because nobody else is going to want to fight him.
He's just too good for his own good. And I mean, it's only his 12th fight, and he's ready for a world title fight now. He'll probably have one more fight like he had, a slightly tougher one, and then he'll be
Yeah.
ready for some sort of a world title shot. But
Yeah.
I think this obviously the winner of Mikey Garcia Lipnitz. Well, obviously Garcia, he's not ready for that level yet.
I
But
wouldn't,
it
I
might.
wouldn't, I wouldn't put him in against Mikey Garcia
No,
yet.
no,
You're right. You're right. That
it'd
he's
be a mistake.
he's a little bit off that level, but he's not too far off it. He's 4 or 5 fights away from that, I think. So
If he had Ricky Burns there, obviously Ricky Burns, I shouldn't really throw that name out because he's lost his last 2 fights. But I
sure,
think that would be an okay fight for him.
yeah, I agree. I think Luke Campbell at 140 would be interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
once he's got a world title, then he can move up, but he needs to get a world title for, in my opinion.
sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, he's a bit of a freak. I think he could probably do whatever weight class he wanted and still
You
be
don't
good
think
enough.
Ricky
But
Burns would step in there with him, do you? I don't think he would. Ricky wouldn't want to get embarrassed by a 12 fight novice,
I
would he?
I don't know. It
I don't
depends
think
what
he would.
it depends how much money he gets offered, and it depends what Ricky wants for his career now. Maybe he's okay with taking tough fights for
Just to
okay.
be a journeyman. Nah,
You,
I
I
don't
don't
see it.
know. You got no idea what his finances look like or anything. So I don't know, man. But it's interesting for me. It was a very great performance. He carries a lot of power for that weight class, and I think it is going to be hard to match him. I think that's the main takeaway from the fight. Atif Shafiq knocks out Lee Appleyard. Did you see this knockout?
I saw it as more of a throwing in the towel kind of moment, wasn't it?
The
Basically.
the throwing in of the towel was the end of the fight, sure, but
But then he had a
Atif,
shot to the
At-
body and went down. I saw that.
yeah, Atif Shafiq was also smashing him up in the like. There's a reason the towel came in so early in a fight, and it's because Atif Shafiq was loading off with shots in the 2 rounds prior to the stoppage. It is a very good performance for him. I was actually leaning towards Lee Appleyard in the fight. But Atif Shafiq proved me wrong. He clearly carries decent power for that weight class as well. I'll be interested to see who he fights next, but I imagine it will still be British level or European level. I don't think he's world class, but you know, he's got a lot of power, so I am interested in seeing who he fights next. As for Lee Appleyard, he's had a few tough losses now and he was quite a touted prospect at one time, so I kind of feel sorry for him because he's had some pretty hard British fights. So it's hard to see where he goes from here at this point, but I'm sure he can come again. And he is still very young. That's the thing about when two prospects fight each other. So I'll be interested to see both of them fight again, but obviously Atif Shafiq with a stunning knockout, a good stoppage, a good win. He moves forward. Now we're coming on to a topic that it's going to bring a little tear to the eye. It might bring up a little anger. Dave Allen suffers a cut during a fight with Lenroy Thomas. I believe it was only in round one. Is that correct? The cut?
It was a headbutt. I think it was clash of head. And Lennon
Yeah,
Thomas's head went into his eyebrow. And that
yeah,
was terrible.
yeah. I mean, Dave Allen leads in with his head a little bit, so it's probably both of their fault, from what I understand. But one of those freak accidents. Technical draw. Now, from what I remember, the Commonwealth sanctioning body are really good when there's a technical draw at sanctioning a rematch. So maybe they will mandate the rematch. Maybe Eddie has to pay Lemroy Thomas a shitload more money to come over for another voluntary, but we'll see. It's an
Can I
interesting
give
one.
a shout out to Baron Singh?
Yeah, yeah,
He's watching now. And I've said, hello, Mr. Singh.
yeah.
Anyway, carry on, sorry.
Yeah. So basically, it was just a freak accident. Hopefully, it doesn't derail Dave Allen's momentum and his because he looked good. He looked in good shape. Um, so yeah, it's one of those things. You kind of feel like the fight could have carried on, but at the same time, 8 stitches in round one is, it could have got pretty bad by late of rounds. So it's an odd one. It's an odd stoppage. It's an odd fight all round, but hopefully we can just make the rematch as quickly as
Do
possible.
you know what? The sad thing was, I've never seen Dave Allen look in such good shape.
Mm.
He looked so ripped.
I'll tell you what, to be honest with you, he's had two of the most shit fortune because he was in proper shape for the last Sky show and he was supposed to fight somebody on that show and then he pulled his back whilst warming up. And so he's had 2 shows in a row with just the most shit luck. So let's hope he just takes it on the chin and it doesn't get him
But there's
too
a part of me
depressed and bring him too down.
that thinks that the chance for him to win any sort of belt will just pass him by. That's my biggest fear, that Lenroy Thomas will get a big offer. You know, I mean, look at what's coming up. Obviously, Joe Joyce and the Hayes team could offer Lenroy Thomas 40 grand. and he'd take the fight. I reckon. I mean, I don't think Hearn was paying him.
I think he was paying him about that 50, 60 grand, something like that. I imagine that the Commonwealth will sanction the rematch though, because when you have a technical draw on a cut, it's just not a good way to end the fight, and it's not good for the belt. So I imagine they'll order a rematch, to be honest with you.
I hope so.
I'll have to look into it, but I'm pretty sure that last time something like this happened in a Commonwealth title fight, they did order the rematch. So we'll have to wait and see.
I'm of the opinion that if he gets offered a bigger or better offer, he'll take it. Thomas, defending against Joe Joyce.
Right, but
at that point,
he might not have the choice. This is what I mean. If the Commonwealth come out soon and say no, you've got to do a rematch, then he's got to do a rematch. So I hope that they do the right thing, the Commonwealth Board. That's what I hope, mostly. I don't want to think about too many negative possibilities, but you are right. Dave Allen.
I'm just looking at really more realistic option. I just got a funny feeling, the boat's going to pass him by. I hope it doesn't. I hope he wins some sort of a title.
I hope so too. I think there's still fights out there for him. I think.
What is he? 24, 25?
Yeah, he's still so young, especially for a heavyweight. And so we'll just have to wait and see with that one. It is a sad event. I didn't actually watch it because I heard what happened and I just thought, fuck that. That sounds too brutal to watch. So too sad. We'll move on to the next fight. Now, this was an absolutely brilliant fight. Dimitri Bivol beat Sullivan Barrera, not only comfortably, not only winning on points nearly every round, not every round, but nearly every round. He stops him in the 12th round with a minute to go. That's an impressive retention of power, no? Did you see this fight?
I saw about 4 or 5 rounds and skimmed through it. And I saw the knockout and I was impressed.
Yeah, I mean,
someone that season.
And in the 12th round, to carry your power that late, it shows that he'd had his game plan was perfect. He'd beaten Sullivan Barrera comfortably, and he still had enough stamina to risk going for the knockout. It was really good tactics, a really good performance from Bivol. People were questioning, is he the real deal? I think that a win like that states that he definitively is the real deal.
It was a good performance. I mean, obviously he's well worthy of that world title.
Yes.
I think it wouldn't be surprised him to unify the division one day.
I think so. I think there's going to be great fights out there for him. Whether he unifies or not, it's another matter. There's some killers in that division that could all knock each other out quite easily. Kovalev, you could imagine. Sorry, you first.
Because Bivol's only 23, the others are not going to be around in 5 years. Like the Kativians and the Kovalov.
Sure, but you've got Callum Smith, who's going to move up to 175. You've got Grovesy, you've got Gilberto Ramirez, who's a huge 168. And you've got you've got a list of guys at that weight class that could all knock each other out. And it makes it such an interesting weight class, in my opinion. It's going to really get exciting over the next 2-3 years, the light heavyweight division.
And they're all bloody Russian.
Some of them, but I mean, we got Grovesy and Callum Smith that will, I believe, even the winner and the loser of the 168 tournament, they'll both move up to 175, I think.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting for me. Great win for Bivol. Really, solid performance against a guy whose only loss was against Andre Ward. Never been knocked out before. A really, really impressive, solid performance. So well done to Bivol. Moving on to the next fight, Gavin McDonald.
Before you say that, now you know why Andre Ward retired.
Sure,
that's why.
That group of guys. I mean, yeah, it's not a fun bunch. He made his money. He managed to get himself seen as the king of the division and got out of there quick. It's a smart move. Gavin McDonald, he beat Gamal Yafai. And for me, this was the most typical stereotypical Gavin McDonald performance. It was a very good performance. It was maybe his best performance, but it was exactly how the McDonald brothers love to fight. Tall, behind the jab, just straight down the pipe. Big shots for the weight class as well. He's not a power puncher, Gavin McDonald, but he does put something on his shots, and it clearly tells. Now, Gamal Yafai looked great in the opening round. Maybe even the opening 3 or 4 rounds, you could say he did enough to make them close rounds, maybe win a couple of them. But Gavin McDonald, towards the end of the fight, was just busting Gamal Yafai up. And I'm surprised Gamal Yafai was still in there in the 12th round, to be honest. So fair play to him. Yeah. He showed a lot of heart. He showed he's got chin, but he just came up short, Gamal. He wasn't ready for this fight, I think. And Gavin, you could see what I was saying in the build-up about the size difference. They look like 3 different weight classes apart, those two guys.
It's ridiculous. But then again, why was Yafai stuck in there so early? I don't understand the thinking behind it. I really don't.
The problem is matching those guys at the lower weight classes. Gavin's lost at world title level, so how do you get to Gavin's level if you're Gamal without beating Gavin? So I can understand why they went for it. I just think everything was against Yafai in that fight. He had maybe the power, he maybe had the speed, but the size advantage for Gavin negated a lot of that. So it was a good enough fight, a very good performance for Gavin. Gamal can come again.
He looked like a bantamweight, Yafai. You know what I mean?
Well, Gavin's a freak of nature, and he's a bit
he's a
Gavin, Jamie, and Zolani Tete are 3 guys that you just cannot believe that they're in the weight class they're in.
Shouldn't he be fighting at featherweight, really?
No, he'd probably get knocked out, I think, because he's got the McDonald brothers have very, very skinny bodies. And so the reason that they can fight at that weight class is because they're just really tall and skinny. And it gives them a huge advantage. It's a very lucky natural advantage they've got. But yeah, you can't blame them for using it. It works well for him. That jab, I think it's arguable that the McDonald brothers have the most, maybe not the most pretty jab in boxing, but they use it the most, man. The whole fight, they just sit behind the jab. It's very effective. It shows you that.
How often do you have twin brothers?
I know.
At world level,
I know.
Charlotte brothers, you don't have it very often.
It's very rare. And Gavin and Jamie have said they'd hate to do it, but if they ever had to, they would fight each other.
I'd like to see that fight. I think that would be good.
It would be a good fight, right? But it would be really fucking hard to watch. Unless they wore very different shorts, you'd be like, who the fuck just hit who? You'd get confused.
In that, you may see an upset in one of those fights, because of obviously the brother. Look, that can, the brother, I'm going to go easy on him.
Sure, you'd imagine Jamie would be the huge favourite going into it, but Gavin's always had that on his shoulder that his brother's better, so you never know.
He knows how he fights.
Right.
He knows.
But to be honest with you, they both fight exactly the same way. They both fight. If you took one of them, right, and you put them both in the same shorts and the same gloves, and you asked them to do a shadow box, I don't think you'd be able to tell much difference between them.
But Jamie's a much better fighter than his brother. I've always thought that.
I don't know if that's true. I think he was just. You've got to remember that he turned pro before Gavin, and he won titles before Gavin. So what happened is he was just ahead of Gavin in his career progression. I think.
So do you reckon if his brother dropped down the division, he would win a world title also in that division, if he had the chance?
I think, honestly, if you give Gavin enough time, him and Jamie could basically perform on a very similar level. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overlooking.
I hope you're wrong.
I think I'm right. I think when you've got twin brothers, and you've got exactly the same genetics, I think you can mold them into a very similar fighter as one another. But that's another story for another video. Kell Brook's absolute demolishment of Rabchenko. He looked good at 154, right?
I thought he looked very good. But, you know, all I'm going to say is that I thought the fight would last a bit longer than it did. I thought it lasted about 5-6 rounds. Didn't it be over so quickly? I didn't realise how poor Rabchenko was, to be honest.
To be honest with you, I don't think he is actually that poor. I think Brook is that good at 154. I think people have got to remember.
He does it welterweight.
Oh, he looks way better, man. People are saying he's got to avoid the killers of 154. I think he is the killer of 154. I think that power right there, it rocks any of the other champions. No one wants to.
Steady on a bit. You know, there's plenty of good fighters in that division. Saddam Ali, I'd pick him to wipe Saddam Ali out.
I'd pick him to wipe out Liam Smith. I'd pick him to beat Charlo in a close fight. I think he's a better boxer than those guys. The only fight that would worry me for Brook is if Spence came up to 154. I'd probably pick Spence to beat Brook again. But
that fight's not going to happen.
It could. Spence said if Brook wins a title at 154, he'll happily rematch him at 154.
That's just crazy. If you're Brook, Eddie Hearn, you'd say don't do it. It's not worth it. I would keep fighting other champions.
I would say do it because I don't really care about, like, Brook's making enough money even if he loses those fights. I care about proving you're the best. And if Brook feels like he could win that rematch, then he should try.
Well, I've just looked at the other champions. Jarrett Hurd, Saddam Ali are both belts he could definitely win. But Charlo and Lara, you know, question marks. Do you know what I mean?
I'd say he could beat Lara in the UK because Lara's got a very, very, very low work rate. And in the UK, he wouldn't get scored well for boxing on the back foot. But in the US, I think, or in, like, you know, in Canada or wherever Lara even fights these days, I think it would be a hard fight. You're right. But Hurd, Ali,
all the champions Smith, are American.
Are they?
Yeah, because Landy's Lara fights for the United States now.
But I wouldn't say he is American though.
I think isn't Saddam Ali next in lot? Isn't Liam Smith the mandatory challenger for Saddam Ali? That's correct, isn't it?
That is correct. Yes. So if he can win that fight, Kell Brook, Liam Smith would be good.
Would that be an easy fight to make? Because obviously rival camps and different networks and stuff.
It would be a pretty hard fight to make, I think, but it wouldn't be an impossible fight to make because
I think if they can beat Liam Smith to it, I'm sure the WBO would let Saddam Ali have a voluntary against Kell Brook. And
maybe.
I could see that happening.
I could see that happening too. And then I imagine that Frank would allow a mandatory to go to purse bids for Liam Smith.
Yeah.
And that way the fight would have to happen, whoever won the purse bids. So,
Don't get me wrong. That would be a tough fight for Kell. It wouldn't be an easy fight. You know, let's not make any bones about it. Kell would win, but it wouldn't be easy. Far from easy.
I think the Liam Smith fight's a perfect fight for him in terms of styles.
Liam Smith would cause him problems, wouldn't he? Liam Smith would cause him plenty.
Liam Smith will cause him problems for about 6 or 7 rounds, but I think Liam Smith is a come-forward fighter with a bit too much of a leaky defence. And against, I think Kell Brook would expose that a lot more, that Liam Smith's not world level.
You don't like the Smith brothers much, do you? I get you don't like them.
No, that's a Barron's thing. He does not like the Smith brothers. I have got absolutely no problem with most of them. I don't mind.
It's just whenever you mention Smith, you're like, you're not really sold on him. I mean, when he won the world title, he never really beat somebody who's world class, did he?
No, and the first fight against Liam Williams was shocking. The whole thing around when he got cut in the build-up to the Canelo fight, but didn't tell anybody and fought anybody anyway with no sparring. I think that was just
Yeah.
stupid. I think Liam Smith is he's a good British level fighter, but he doesn't excite me. That's the problem. I like
But
Stephen Smith. I like Callum Smith. I have a bit of a problem with Paul Smith, again, for a similar reason as Liam Smith. Is that
yeah,
I've seen too many 8-rounders where Paul Smith looks slower than Luis Ortiz.
I think the problem is the Smith brothers have always had good matchmaking, whereas Kell Brook's done it the hard way. That's the difference, isn't it? You know what I mean? And Liam Smith's always had the interviews.
In some ways, yes, but Stephen Smith's had hard world title losses, to be fair. That's why I've got no problem against the Smith family or the Smith brothers. I just don't particularly like Liam or Paul's style when they fight. I like Callum's style. I like
Callum's.
Yeah, and I like Stephen Smith's style. Even though he's lost at world title level, he still goes in there to put on an exciting fight. And to be fair, Liam Smith can do on occasion. He's been in some exciting fights, so I don't have any hatred of him. I just don't find him super exciting. I don't think he's world class.
I see what you mean. Yeah,
that's my issue. Baron Singh hates the Smith brothers because they've all blocked him on Twitter because he just tries to slag them off at every moment.
Yeah, but Baron's a wind-up merchant.
He is.
Yeah,
he got blocked by Anthony Fowler today on Twitter too.
What? How did he manage that?
I don't know. You'll have to ask him, but it's funny. It is funny. Oh. So yeah, Brook looked good. Rabchenko was a bit too easy. I can agree with you on that.
But steady on. I mean, when I watched the fight, I'm thinking to myself, I'm having my beer, and I had a sip of beer, and then Rabchenko was knocked out, and I'm like, what?
But the thing is, I know how. I don't need to steady on too much with this, right? Because I know how good Brook was at 147. I know how good a boxer he is, and he looked so filled out, so strong at 154. Yeah. I think he's going to be a monster.
But the scary thing is, these two losses didn't seem to faze him. You know, he came out and he thought, I'm determined. I'm going to get on with it. I'm going to prove I can do it.
I tell you what, there was an article recently where he said he had counselling for depression after the Spence loss. And
really?
that counselling is what helped him decide to come back. So I think it did affect him. I just think he's got a lot of mental resilience to bounce back from it anyway. We've got to remember he went up to 160 and fought the most feared guy in the planet at the time. And then,
a dumb move. I mean, you've got to be honest.
And then it was a stupid move, but it probably made him a lot of money and set him up for the rest of his life anyway. So that's one part of it. And then he tried to.
But at what cost?
Straight.
Long-term.
Well, this is the cost. This was the cost. We saw the cost. He tried to come straight from a fight at 160 and a broken eye socket to a fight at 147 against the most feared guy at 147. And he did well for like 7 or 8 rounds and eventually got stopped. But the weight caught up to him. You could see in that fight. He looks a different animal at 154. I think he's going to be a real threat for people, man. I would quite easily predict he will win a world title at 154.
I enjoyed watching it, get me wrong. His performance, to analyse his performance, he come in the first round, not a great deal happened. In the second round, he hit him with that first uppercut, then he hit him with the second uppercut. Rabchenko went down. I thought Rabchenko was going to get up. He didn't get up. It was all over.
His legs... I didn't actually think he was going to get up because when he tried to put his legs out the very first time, he just stayed kneeling because he knew his balance was gone. And then when he tried to get up at 8 or 9, he couldn't do it. It was a great punch from Brook. It was a great performance. To be honest with you, people were in the sport of boxing, not just Sky people, not just people who were trying to big up the fight, said that Rabchenko could be a tough test for Brook if Brook wasn't on his game. But he's clearly on his game and he's clearly got a lot left to offer.
But let's not be under no illusion. He fought Rabchenko because Rabchenko had a WBC top 15 ranking.
Otherwise, why not? Why not? I mean, but you don't get a W. If every fighter coming back off a eye socket injury came back and fought a top 15 ranked fighter, boxing would be a much better place.
But
So
people
you
don't know
can't.
it, and I'm so glad he beat Rabchenko. I'm so glad he destroyed him because it proved the point
It did.
that
It
when
did. It did.
your back's against the wall, you can come back and do anything. And he proved, he's got the metal to do it.
I think so, and I think get him one more fight, get him the Khan fight. That will set him up for that will set him and his family up for the rest of their future, and then get him that one last world title shot at 154. If he can do it, he'll go down as one of the best British welterweights and super welterweights in a long, long time.
He's a good fighter. I mean, we'll see what's next for him. Anyway,
let's move on. Kovalev. This was a quick fight. He destroyed Ika Mikhalkin. I don't know if I've pronounced that right. Sorry.
That's near. Yeah.
It's as near as I'll get. Good stoppage win. It was always going to end that way. I worry for Kovalev. His style is the style that ages the worst. He'll always have his power punch, right? He'll always be able to knock people out. But as he ages, he's going to take more and more shots as his hands and feet slow down. And I saw that already in this fight a little bit. There were times where maybe it was just ring rust, but he was getting hit with shots that weren't powerful, but he was still getting hit. Maybe it's just that he didn't respect Igor Mikhalkin. But I just think Kovalev's got that style. Do you know what I mean? Where 2 or 3 more years' time, if his feet slow down any more than they are, he'll have real problems in that division because there's a lot of athletic guys.
I don't think Kovalev will be champion in 2 or 3 years. I think he'll either get defeated again or retire. That's what I think.
Sure. He could move up to cruiserweight. That is true. He's got the power, and cruiserweights are slower. So it would sort of suit him if his style slows down too much for him to move up. But it's just a concern of mine that I have. I think it was a good win, a good knockout, and a good performance. But I think you can kind of see the signs there that his style is not going to age well.
He's had a great career in either way.
Sure. That's very true. He's earned a lot of money. Well, I don't know how much money he has earned because those Ward pay-per-views didn't actually do all that many buys, but I'm sure he's made enough money. So yeah, I mean, that wasn't a great fight. It wasn't a terrible fight, but here's where stuff gets really interesting. This, in my opinion, was the best fight of the weekend. It was Cat Guy, maybe the second best fight of the weekend. It was Cat Guy beats the life out of Andre Dirrell. Did you see this fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. What did you make of this one?
I thought Cat's Guy was too quick. He had lightning combinations. Dirrell didn't get a look in. Dirrell did get some shots in, but Cat's Guy was throwing so many combinations. He was so accurate with punching. And
he was hitting him. It was a fascinating fight for me. I picked Andre Dirrell, as I think many people did, because he's the better boxer of the two. However, that just proved to be not true. It was Cat Guy. He's got a weird style, but he's not a bad boxer at all. He's got good body movement. He moves into range perfectly. He's another guy that Eubank Jr. could do with studying. If Eubank Jr. could implement some of those sort of ways that as Cat Guy gets into range, he would be a lot better fighter too. I would do well against Groves. Yes. I think he could possibly knock out Groves. I think it's a close fight because as Cat Guy has been stopped before, I think it was by Korobov. And so he could be a bit chinny, and we know Groves is a bit chinny, and we know they're both very powerful. So that's a tough fight to pick because you could imagine either guy knocking out the other guy. But I do have to be a bit harsh here on Andre Dirrell. What the fuck was he doing? What the fuck was he doing, man? It's like
I don't think he won the fight. He didn't want the fight in the first place. I don't think he won it.
I don't think he wanted the rematch. I think the first fight he wanted, but then after everything that happened, I think this rematch got forced upon him. He just was, that was not the usual Andre Durrell in there. I take nothing away from his cat guy, but Andre Durrell was getting backed into the ropes easily, taking shots for fun. He just, you know, when I said sometimes Andre Durrell leaves it in the ring,
Yeah,
he didn't even bring it to the ring this time. He didn't bring nothing to the
he's
ring,
done.
really.
I think he's done.
I have to
Getting
agree.
Roger.
He's done at that level for now. He needs to go and have a major rethink because Cat Guy is a good boxer and he did do well and he cut off the ring well. But I would imagine Andre Durrell wins that fight 8 times out of 10 when they're both at their best. And
How do you think his
so
catch
for
guy will do against again?
I think he'd lose to De Gea. I think De Gea's style's all wrong for him. Um, a fit De Gea, mind you. We don't really know much about De Gea at the moment because of his shoulder injury. The De Gea that lost to Truax, I mean, his cat guy would knock him the fuck out. So, but a proper fit James De Gea, I think, gives him nightmares. I think his cat's guy was brilliant. I really enjoyed his style. I really enjoyed the way he brought the fight, but I did expect a tiny bit more from Andre Durrell, to be honest with you. And he quit, but at the same time, his corner were telling him like, "We're pulling you out if you don't show me something," and he didn't show them anything. So I don't know if I think it's a bad decision. He was only going to get knocked out badly if he stayed in there. So it was probably a good call from the corner and Andre Durrell in the end.
Hmm. I thought, he looked done. After the fifth round, he's getting bashed out, thinking he's going to get knocked out very soon.
Yeah,
You know.
I was thinking that, and it was surprising. I was thinking it from the first round. He didn't.
Yeah,
He lost the first round quite convincingly, and from that point on, it was like this guy's a pressure fighter, and he's got the pressure rolling from round one. So you've got problems, Andre Durrell. You can't let a pressure fighter get inside that early. So yeah, it was a great fight, a great win for his cat. It was Katagai. They were pronouncing it very weird
I'm
the
not.
on the American commentary. It was funny to listen to. Every commentator said it slightly differently. But yeah, great win, and this helped create what I thought was a very good card actually overall for the weekend. Then we had the main event, the big dogs, the two
Right.
heavyweights fighting each other. This was a great fight. You are right. Wilder
We'll take it from the first
versus.
round.
Yes, please do. Walk us through it.
In the first round, basically, Wilder was losing the first round, but
Yep.
then you saw Ortiz get hit with a bit of Wilder's power, and you saw him sort of nearly go down. But it was ruled a slip. Did you see that
Mm.
bit?
I
And
think
he looked like.
that I think that was actually a slip. I rewatched it, but yes, I did see that. Yeah.
Then the second round, you take us through the second round to the fifth before the next.
Well, I'm not so good at the round by round play by plays, but I'll tell you what I saw happening in there. Round one, like you say, Wilder sort of lost that round, but maybe earned Ortiz's respect late on. But in round two, every time Wilder would throw anything, Ortiz would launch a bomb, like a reactive bomb. And
Mm.
this set the pace for a lot of the fight. And what happened was Wilder was just terrified to throw the back right hand. He'd throw it a few times, he'd throw straights, but he wouldn't really throw wild hooks. He wasn't leaping in wildly as he usually does. He was very conservative. And this meant that Ortiz was just backing him around the ring for large periods of the fight. Uh, then what happened is Wilder finally threw the strong right and it bust up Ortiz badly. His legs were all over the
Fifth.
place. Yeah, this was in
What
the
a
fifth
knockdown.
round. It was a great knockdown, a great flash knockdown, and it shows you why you cannot fight just a pressure fight against Wilder. In fact, I think it would probably be safer to draw Wilder onto you than it would to try and force him on the back foot. Both are dangerous, don't get me wrong, but Ortiz was absolutely stunned from this. He got up and he couldn't even believe he'd been knocked down. He was like arguing with the ref about it. It was funny actually. Um, but then, weirdly enough, Wilder didn't really capitalize on this well, and the pattern of the fight goes back to Ortiz counter punching. So he's sort of trying to draw out Wilder's counter punch and then land his own big punch. And in the seventh, it happens. He lands and he has Wilder all over the place. And to be honest with you, uh, I'm surprised Wilder stayed standing from a few of those shots, especially the left hook Ortiz caught him with. It was brutal. And he showed a lot of chin. So fair play to Wilder for that. He showed something that he hasn't necessarily shown before, certainly not against a puncher like Ortiz. So
in the seventh round, or sorry, the sixth round or whatever it was, he got buzzed in the seventh, and I thought the fight was going to be over.
Yeah, so did I.
For him, the last 10 seconds, he's lucky there wasn't another minute on the clock, otherwise he'd been out.
100%.
Then in the eighth round, he stepped around, he was running around the ring for a round, and then in the ninth.
To be honest with you, though, in the eighth round, I feel really like Ortiz's age showed. He gassed himself out in the seventh, trying to take Wilder out of there, and he didn't have anything left to go for it in the eighth. And then in the ninth, you could see he was fading more. And then in the 10th, well, my oh my, Wilder lands that right hand from the gods. Just as Ortiz is sort of building a bit more pressure again and starting to... Because I don't know if you had this the same way, but I had Ortiz winning many rounds of this fight on point.
He was about 3 rounds up.
Yeah, same. For me, maybe 2 or 3. So Wilder's right hand from the gods came at the right time, because if he didn't land that then... he'd have had to win the last 3 rounds to win the fight, or even draw the fight. And so, yeah, it was a fascinating fight, a really good heavyweight contest. Obviously, everyone's excited for Wilder, AJ. I don't know why the Americans have tried to turn it into AJ's ducking Wilder or something.
He's not at all.
This seems really bizarre to me, and I think it's the stupidest tactic for building the fight. It will actively discourage fans from thinking this is a fight that Wilder wants. How on earth could a heavyweight champion who's had 8 or 9 defenses accuse AJ of ducking anyone when he's in his second unification fight? It's just fucking absurd. I've never heard anything more absurd. It doesn't.
Be honest.
Sure.
I don't think Joshua needs to fight Wilder. I have to be honest. He's making enough money. He doesn't need to fight this guy. He doesn't need that WBC. But he could be champion for another 5-6 years, making big money, defending his belt.
So, do you think that Wilder is scared that AJ is going to do what he did for 5 years?
Right,
how can Wilder even call anyone out on ducking or building their heavyweight, like the resume, when that's all he's done? He's fought one top guy, Wilder. That's it.
Yeah. The problem is Joshua got there quicker, because he had more talent. It's as simple as that.
And he had the luck. He had the luck of Charles Martin getting a
Wilder
title.
Never had that luxury. He had to work his way to the top. He did.
To be fair, he had to work his way to the top in some aspects. But if you actually look at sort of the guys they fought in the top 100, I do believe AJ has more top 100 heavyweight victories already in his career. And so...
Can I be blunt with you now? I think Wilder would beat Joshua just based on Joshua not having stamina. That's all it is. I just don't think Joshua has
I don't think Wilder has very much stamina either.
He does.
I think he can fight 12 rounds like he did against Bermain Stavern on the back foot, and he still has power in the 10th, because he'll still have power in the 12th, because power, when you're that powerful, it doesn't diminish. It's the last thing to fade. A tired fighter is the most dangerous fighter. I think it's a close fight, right? But I do think Wilder got hit a lot and moved around the ring by a much less athletic man than Anthony Joshua.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if Anthony Joshua got that same combo off in round 7 that Ortiz landed, I think Joshua would be able to jump on that in the next round. Also,
Yeah.
you've got to remember Joshua knows about his stamina issues, and apparently he's been reducing his weight steadily since the last fight. So maybe he can solve that issue. I do agree with you though. After that Wilder win, I'm less convinced that AJ wins that fight easily. I
Let me tell you what.
still lean
Do you
towards
think
AJ.
there's no way Joshua would get up from that first knockdown that Ortiz had? I don't think he'd get up from it. I'm being honest.
I don't know. He got up from Klitschko's one, and Klitschko is maybe not as hard as Wilder, but similar. And so I would say he'd probably get up from the first one, but nobody gets up from the second one.
No, I just
And
think Joshua.
That's more worrying.
I think there's a part of me that thinks Wilder wants it more than Joshua. I think when it comes down to it, I think Wilder's tougher than Joshua. That's what I think. I'm being honest now.
I don't.
I'll probably get some heat.
I'm not inside their minds, so I'm not going to pretend to know what they think. However,
Body language.
Yeah. Body language is different amongst different people. Like, Bellew never looks confident when he's in press conferences, but then when he does the ring walk, he does. Then you've got who was the other guy I was listening to that's really, really sharp? Daniel Dubois. When he gets really nervous before a fight, but he doesn't look like he is in the ring. So I don't know, man. It's hard to tell on that sort of. I don't like to try and guess their mental state. What I would say is, if Wilder lands the big right on AJ, it is over. But relying solely on a big right hand it's cost many heavyweights in the past, and so I would lean towards AJ winning the fight on points as long as he tightens up his defense and gets his stamina,
stays away from the right hand.
Yeah,
if he can outbox Wilder for 12 rounds, which he can, because he's a much better boxer than Wilder. But I just worry about that. You can't avoid a right hand for 12 rounds.
You can. It's been Tyson Fury did it. Tyson Fury did it against Vladimir Klitschko.
Stiverne did it in the first fight against Wilder.
That's what I mean. So it can be done. But to be fair, I don't think Wilder was looking for the knockout in the first fight against Stiverne.
No.
I think he was looking to win on points. I think Tyson Fury did it against Vladimir Klitschko. We've seen it. When you rely on power as your equalizer, sometimes you forget to win rounds on points. And Wilder clearly at times forgets to win rounds on points. Yeah. So it is an interesting. It is a more interesting fight now. I definitely agree with that. I'm very much looking forward to it. Hopefully, it's announced as soon as the Parker AJ fight is finished.
Problem is, I was speaking to somebody about this. The heavyweight division, I think, is the best we've had it in 20 years. I really believe it. And I was speaking to other guys in one of the groups, and they were saying that, the 80s and 90s were better. And I'm thinking, well, move past that. Let's enjoy what we've got now.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to this, right? In the 80s, they were all on steroids, so they might have actually been tougher, but that's not necessarily a good thing. And the other part of it is that we've got Wilder, Parker, Joshua, Povetkin, arguably Usyk if he wants to move up. These are all top level big men. And so it's hard to think of a time in recent history where you've had that many fights that you'd pay pay-per-view to see in the heavyweight division.
All the heavyweights are massive now. Like, Povetkin is the last of the smaller heavyweights, isn't he, in my opinion?
Arguably, Parker
really small.
Arguably, Parker as well isn't huge, is he? How tall is Povetkin? I imagine he's about
6'2". 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, 6'2",
last.
and then Parker's about 6'3".
Yeah,
So you would have to say, yeah, him and Parker are sort of the last two top heavyweights that are smaller. Um, Usyk 6'4". You know, there's a few other guys around. David Hayes still fighting, and he technically 6'2". Uh,
David Hay. I've never heard of him before.
so yeah, I would agree, but I can understand people's opinion because the champions we have now, they've all got their vulnerabilities. Wilder,
Mm.
arguably not the greatest with his technique, maybe has some chin issues. I know he's been dropped in his career before and he does get wobbled occasionally. You know, Spielka wobbled him, Molina wobbled him. He's obviously got some chin because he's not getting dropped and not
But
he's not got an Amir Khan chin, but
no,
he
but
might have a wobbly chin.
the thing
Then you've got
about today's
AJ.
boxing, I
Yeah.
don't think people. I think people should focus less on boxing's past and concentrate more on today. Like when people moan about Ali and this, I'm thinking, get a life. That
Sure,
was
but
50 years. You need
but
to move on.
what I'm saying is I can understand the argument that all of the
Yeah,
champions now have a weakness, right? AJ's got stamina. Wilder's maybe a bit chinny, poor technique. Parker's not got the most power. Povetkin's not the biggest. So they've all got one issue. But that's what actually makes it so exciting is whose weakness is going to lose to who else's weakness. And it actually makes for a really entertaining
that's what I mean.
division at the moment. So I agree with you entirely. I think
Lennox
people,
Lewis, if Lennox Lewis was around today, I mean, who knows? He probably would hold a belt, you know, if Lewis was around today, as he was 15 years ago.
yeah, but
He definitely.
he was an elite boxer,
Oh
and
yeah, he was.
he was also one of the first giants of the heavy,
Oh,
like
definitely.
not one of the first, but one of the true giants of the heavyweight
Yeah,
division. And so he could hang with the guys now, no problem.
easily. Yeah, I think he'd even beat Joshua if they had to fight. You know, obviously the old version of
Possibly.
Joshua would dismantle
Yeah.
Joshua, I think.
Obviously, the problem with Lewis is,
He had no chin.
uh, well, he had a chin, and he had no chin, but he was good at defending it. The problem for him was what Lewis is going to turn up. The Lewis against Oliver McCall, the Lewis that lost that knockout against that absolute nobody, or the
As
Lewis that fought Vitali. You know, I mean, like that was the problem with Lewis is that he was a little bit inconsistent sometimes, and he was great when it mattered, but in smaller fights, he sometimes just fucking didn't have the motivation. So
he avenged his losses. You know,
he did. He got the motivation to fight those guys by losing to them.
but I respect Lewis more than I respect Joshua because I
Well,
don't think if Joshua he's
sure,
kind of
but
got those belts
Joshua's a
easily.
lot.
Compared to
Joshua's a lot. Joshua's a lot younger though. Like
yeah,
I respect Lewis a lot more than Joshua at the moment, but
yeah.
Joshua could do
When his
great
career's
things.
done, he'll
Ex-
probably be a billionaire.
we never know. You just never know.
I've got a funny
Um,
feeling that when his career's done, he will be a bigger name than Lewis. I can see it happening. It's happening now. You know, before our eyes.
I think because of social media and the way the world works now, he will definitely be bigger. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think our country was ready for a heavyweight like Lennox Lewis, were we? Do you know what I mean? Could you imagine if Lewis was around today competing with Joshua? Wouldn't that be more interesting?
Yeah, but there's so many of those would like Tyson Fury, Lennox Lewis would be a great fight
Oh, that would
too.
have been great.
There's too many of those. Let's move on to
Okay.
our last topic. We might
We've
have
got another one
one.
after that.
Okay. Let's move on to our news topics then. This one is big news, and it's going to cause a lot of controversy. Canelo fails drugs test. Thoughts on this one, Nathan?
Oh, I can't. I'm shocked, to be honest. To do with that meat, wasn't it? Some cotton, was it cotton butyl or something?
Clenbuterol.
I don't know what it is. Is it some sort of?
I know a lot about clenbuterol because of what happened to Tyson Fury and what happened to Lucas Brown. Clenbuterol is a form of steroid. It can have anabolics in it. It can also be used as a masking agent. And I do not believe, uh, the same way I didn't believe Tyson Fury and Huey Fury about the contaminated meat. It's a good legal defense. In a court of law, it's a clever defense, but I don't for 1 minute believe it. Canelo, a super supreme multi-million-dollar boxer, is eating dodgy contaminated meat.
Strange.
I don't buy that. Like for Tyson Fury and Huey Fury, they had a good argument. They were hunting wild boar and they didn't get the meat cleansed of drug of potential in contaminations. Whereas Canelo, sure, Mexico does have a lot of contaminated meat. This is true, but I wasn't aware Canelo lived in Mexico. For one thing, I thought he lived in the States, and two, you would imagine that someone who earns as much money from boxing as he does wouldn't be eating at restaurants with contaminated meat.
It's a bit strange, isn't it?
It's a good legal defense, but it sets my bullshit radar off immediately. I don't believe it. I think he was cheating. I think he was probably using clenbuterol as a masking agent for something else. And, you know, this is going to put the fight in jeopardy now. I see Varda and everybody rushing to say, oh, it was just tiny, tiny levels. It's like, yeah, okay, we get that. It's the levels that could be correspond with meat contamination. Great, okay, but you've banned people for 2 years for having the same amount in their system. So let's see the consistency.
But did you realise that? I mean, this was a voluntary test, apparently, from what I read in the article.
Sure, sure. But I mean, Lucas Brown signed up to the WBC clean program and still tested positive. So I don't think whether it's voluntary or not makes a lot of difference, in my personal opinion. But it's fascinating.
It's what happened. I think this is bad news.
I think the fight will still happen. I think Canelo will get the lightest tap on the wrist ever. This will all be swept under the rug because there's too much money in this fight. However, personally, I feel he should be banned for 2 years, the same way Tyson Fury was.
It's not going to happen, though. He's too big a name.
I agree, but it sets a bad precedent for boxing if one man can be banned and someone can commit the same exact mistake. Let's be fair to Canelo. Let's say it was a mistake and he just ate contaminated meat, and yet he doesn't have to take responsibility for that mistake, and yet Tyson Fury does. It's fascinating to me how the different levels of fame and money get completely different treatment in the boxing justice system.
Because it's WBC and he's Mexican, so it'll all be good in there.
I agree. It's a sad fact, but there's no way Canelo's getting banned for trace amounts, even if it is something other people have been banned for in the past. It's an odd thing in boxing, but it's just the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I find is that Billy Joe Saunders said he wants to step in. I mean, he's given Canelo a bashing. The words he used were "you cheating wanker."
Yeah, I mean, he's got every right to say that. I don't want to say that outright yet. I need more evidence, but I would say that I'm skeptical of the meat story. Let's put it that way.
So am I. But then again, did you notice how big Canelo looked in his fight against
Yep.
anyway?
Yep.
But there's our answer now, I guess, isn't it?
Yep. Indeed, it does. I was quite surprised at his growth from the Chavez Jr. fight to and you got to remember the Chavez Jr. fight was actually at like 162. and
Ridiculous.
he still looked bigger in the Golovkin fight. So yeah, I'm not surprised 100%. This guy is the most protected guy in boxing. If anyone feels like they could get away with cheating, it's probably Canelo because he's probably right. And that's the sad truth of it.
But the way boxing's going now, I mean, I just think the bigger the name you are, the more you'll get likely to get away with stuff.
It seems like it. It does seem like it. It's a sad day, but what are we gonna do, eh? I still want to watch the fight. I still
Right, shall we move on to our last thing, which I sent you the article?
Yes, I saw this. This is the funniest thing I've read all week.
Oh,
is this a comedy?
I don't know, but
have World Boxing News started a parody website, a satire website? Because quite honestly, this is just fucking unbelievable. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen, because if I don't share the screen, nobody is going to actually believe that anybody ever said this. So here we go. Is the screen sharing?
Yes, yeah. Mate. It's all up and
present to everyone. Great. Michael Sprott backs Sam Sexton to defeat Hughie Fury. Now, if that isn't the most ridiculous headline you've ever read, you have not been reading. Well, you've been reading too many stupid headlines, because that's just fucking daft. Sam Sexton is set to make the first defense of his British heavyweight title against Hughie Fury on May 12th. And giving his view on the fight is former British champ Michael Sprott. Who the fuck asked Michael Sprott for his opinion on this? Jesus.
Exactly.
Sprott, who has a long career full of experience in the heavyweight division, spoke to WBN to give his opinion and prediction of upcoming UK heavyweight fights. Sam Sexton captured the British heavyweight crown back in October, and his experience could be a key factor in his fight against Fury, Sprott told WBN. Fucking hell. I think it's quite an interesting fight. They're both great boxers. No, they're not. It's a tough one because they're both boxers. No, they're not. Sam is a bit more experienced than Hughie. No, he's not. And has fought a ton of people. Okay, yeah, he's fought a ton of people.
But lost.
Hughie Fury has a far better amateur pedigree, a far better wins in his pro career. You know, I mean, come on. One of them's been in a world title fight and the other one hasn't. It's kind of as simple as that, really, isn't it? Sure, Hughie Fury lost, but a lot of people thought he did well against Parker or nicked it. So the idea that Sexton is as experienced as Hughie, maybe in terms of time in the ring, but not in terms of opposition. So that's a stupid point. Sprott's a fucking idiot. I don't like to disrespect ex-fighters, but how could anyone think Sam Sexton is going to beat Hughie Fury? Oh my! I'm going to go with Sam Sexton on points. Oh my God, Sprott, mate. Jesus.
I think he nedes to retire. Michael Sprott, let's bring his record up so we can take the mickey out of him even more. Bring his record up.
Okay.
Then would tell us all we need to know. I think he's got more losses than wins now. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to stop screen sharing. Hang on. That was funny. I screen shared.
This is all hilarious.
Yeah, it's a funny article to me, man. I couldn't quite believe it. Michael Sprott backs Sam Sexton to defeat Hughie. When you told me about it, I couldn't quite stop laughing for a little bit. Fair play to Michael Sprott. I mean, I am going to bring up his record quickly, because
just so we can all have a laugh in.
Michael Sprott, 42 wins, 28 losses. He got knocked out as many times as he knocked other people out. He's now 43.
When did he last fight?
He had a fight in 2017. Yeah, man. Sprott, mate. I respect you as a fighter. I respect what you did for a long time, but please retire, and also please stop commentating on boxing if you think Sam Sexton has any chance against Hughie Fury, that's a non-starter. That is a non-starter.
Oh, dear.
Oh, look, there's our stream. I'll go back to
Oh,
stop sharing.
There was one more article, and that was Broner against Vargas because Omar Figueroa was injured.
Yes, I did see this. Omar Figueroa. I can't spell his. How do you spell his last name?
I don't know, but I just know his name's Omar Figueroa. That's all I know.
Yeah. Injured.
Jesse Vargas is stepping in.
Yeah, now this is interesting because Jesse Vargas isn't a bad fight as a replacement. You'd have to think.
Vargas would be the thing.
Maybe.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, that's it's an interesting move for Broner because you'd think if he loses this fight, it is truly over for him.
It's definitely over, yeah.
And yet, I would, like you say, I would pick Jesse. I'm picking Jesse Vargas to win, probably. Yeah, I mean, Jesse Vargas's two losses come at the top level. Timothy Bradley Jr. and Manny Pacquiao. And so you would have...
He didn't beat Timothy Bradley, sorry.
Yeah, I said his two losses. His two losses come at the top level. Jesse Vargas, yeah, he lost to Bradley Jr. and he lost to Manny Pacquiao. But he beat Saddam Ali, and he beat, he's beaten a few somewhat names. Antonio DeMarco, Khabib. That was a good win, actually. Khabib Alekverdiev. He's a good fighter. I actually rate him quite highly, that Khabib geezer. He lost to Adrian Broner, I remember, but he's not a bad fighter. So, yeah, I would pick Jesse Vargas just because Adrian Broner's work rate in these fights every fight it gets worse and worse.
I just don't think he wants it anymore. That's the impression of Broner. He's made his money. He doesn't care. I just don't think he wants it anymore.
I agree. Yes, somewhat agree on that one, man. It's an interesting one. I personally would have preferred to have seen Josh Taylor step into that fight, but it's a bit too soon.
Josh Taylor would be too dangerous. I mean, like you say, it'd probably be too dangerous too early for Josh Taylor anyway.
It is a bit, but it would have been a good fight nonetheless. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about this week, man, or have we covered everything?
I think we're nearly done. But what boxing's next week? I'm not sure what's next week.
I would have to quickly check. Let me do that. Sport, boxing, live boxing on Sky Sport, Box Nation. Sunday, the 11th of March. I don't think is that this weekend? Yeah. But on Sunday, Saturday night, Scott Quigg fights Oscar Valdez. That's a good little fight, that is. I'm not sure what else is on the card. And I think that's it as in terms of British. That's it for British fights. But on the 9th of March, Indongo fights Progress on Box Nation and Showtime. That's an okay fight. Indongo's coming back off his unification defeat.
Yeah.
But no, I think we're a little bit quieter next weekend for boxing.
One of the fight I was going to ask you about, which was Joe Joyce, is fighting Donny Palmer.
I don't really know Donny Palmer very well, so I can't...
I've watched him fight. He won't last around.
Right. Fair. That's not good to hear. Kirill Relic is in a fight on the 10th of March. Yeah, I can't see who he's fighting. No. Yeah, he's fighting Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's fighting Rensis Bartholomew. That's a good fight, you know.
I think
Kirill Relic's underrated. His losses...
Oh, yeah, he should be a world champion already.
His loss to Ricky Burns was unfair. and then he lost already to Rancis Bartholomew. But I think, and it was a unanimous decision, so I'm not quite sure why the rematch is happening. I'll have to go back and watch the first fight and look at why. But that could be a good little fight. But other than that, I mean, Mikey Garcia's fighting Sergey Lipnitz in America,
which is an easy fight for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, it should be an easy fight. It's a good little. It's a ticking over fight, isn't it? Oh, and Petr Petrov, the guy who lost to Terry Flanagan, he's fighting Ivan Baranchik.
Okay.
But Petr Petrov's not a bad fighter. But
What
that's
belt?
no, it's not for a belt. It's just a fight. Ivan Baranchik, 17-0, 25-year-old sort of prospect. Could be a good scrap. It'll be hard to watch live, though. Probably have to watch it on YouTube.
And there was also something else that I read last week sometime that I didn't mention. David Haye was saying that he expects to be in some big fights soon. Let me have a quick look at what this was before we go. Have a quick look. I'll be able to tell you. No, I can't find it. But basically, David Haye was saying that he expects to see himself in fights with Joshua pretty soon. Do you know what I mean?
I'm reading it here. It's in the Sun, and because it's in the Sun, it's just bullshit clickbait. David Haye says fight with Anthony Joshua would be as big as Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. No, it wouldn't. Maybe the Wilder fight might be, but you're a walking cripple, and no one would buy the pay-per-view because no one would trust that you'd even be able to get in the ring. Well, here's the thing. If he can't keep his ankle together against Tony Bellew, what's going to fall off against Anthony Joshua?
His nose, like Michael Jackson.
That's what I mean. Like, it's just too crazy to think about. So, yes, just David Haye blowing air, but it might not.
Find into the history books.
It's the Sun.
2009.
Well, I think it's also the Sun. I think they probably took something he said and then made a stupid article out of it. Yeah, that's what the Sun do.
Okay, we're about done then, I think, mate. To be honest.
Yes, man. Let's wrap up. The Facebook page is in the description. The Twitter is in the description. Like and follow. We basically post updates and articles to those, and we'll be back next week to discuss a few less fights, hopefully, because it's been crazy the last 2 weekends. Peace out, everyone.
Bye, everybody.